Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, whatever part of the world you are tuned in from. This is Funny Like a Clown podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth. March 16th, 2021. Finally getting out of that year 2020 that we all want to forget. This is episode 102, and as always, this episode is brought to you today by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. For the spicy, sweet, savory taste at game time, there's only one G Vegas available at www.gvegas.webs.com. Go there, get it shipped right to your door. You don't want to go out grocery shopping in this pandemic. You want food shipped right to your door. When you're ready for the game, the Patriots are making some big news. You have some good buffalo wings, and what better way to make them than with G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. Today we are paying tribute. We do comedy here, and if you're on the Boston comedy scene, there was never a more loved comedian than Mr. Bob Seibel. And here to pay tribute, I have another loved comedian, Thomas Hayes. Welcome to the show.
Wow, well that was now, I'm just curious, seriously, how do you spell G Vegas?
G then dash Vegas.
Oh,
Vegas.
all right, I gotta try that.
Vegas.
You sold me.
All right, we got a new customer right there from the podcast, but
yes, I am so excited by this. You put it succinctly. Probably the most loved comedian universally across not only the audiences but the comedians themselves, and that is no easy task.
Not on the Boston comedy scene. It's not easy. It's a dog eat dog world, and there's a lot of hate out there. You're either a loved or you're a hated comedian by 50% of the in your circle you're loved, and outside of your circle you're the competition. But there's few who can ride that line and be in every circle in comedy and have everybody love him, and Bob is certainly one of them.
Well, it was because he was loved. I mean, he kind of looked through that. Not that he didn't target a few people. Not so much the comedian, say the booking agents or the rooms. And he.
It's tough not to. Yeah.
Unfortunately, when he passed, a comedian who was so good to him in the end, who became basically his chauffeur when he was going for his chemo and brought meals, called me the day after he died and said, "Never a bad word about anyone." And I said, "I don't think you know the same guy I do." So he had his moments.
Yeah.
And, but yes.
Overall, he was a loved guy, though.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, overall, he was a loved guy. I mean, nobody doesn't have any enemies in life, nobody who doesn't like him, but I mean, for every one guy, that didn't like Bob, there were 10 that loved him.
Well, he had this giving spirit, is there a way we can play one of the cuts that I submitted yesterday?
Yeah, do you want to start off with that, or do you want to save it to the end?
I think we can, if we jab it too long, we may lose interest, but I think if we show them firsthand, in his own words, what he was about, I don't know what order you kept them in, but anyway. All
right, well, let's play one of them, and then when it gets done, you can tell us what it's all about. How's that sound?
Yeah,
All right, here we go. Let me get one going here. And,
The plus, we spent an hour and a half so far. Wow. Yeah. I mean, not privately. In public, please, let's not bring back the bad frustrations of our trips to Europe. All right? You have your life, I got my life. You go your way, I'll go my way. I wouldn't bring it out in public, Tom. I got a career.
I was hoping that we would get, and today, hopefully, we will get to Europe. And a great time we had in Europe.
Yes.
But,
Isn't it so sad? I saw you on the bridge waving. Mon ami.
So, well, let's talk about what we were just talking about. You were in Vegas and you just saw a gal with a great sign. You said,
"Oh God, true story." Yeah, if you go to Vegas, you walk the strip, and then they have bridges that attach the streets. And I said, I was there for 5 days, and a hooker finally propositioned me. I was so sad. It took 5 days, and I was game. I said, "I'll give you 100 if you make love to me and tell me I'm good." Look, it's giving 100 back, Tom. She said, "I can't do it, honey. I'm a hooker, not a hypocrite." I don't see the humor here. I don't see the humor.
All right, so tell us about that, Cliff.
I think the beauty of what we're doing today is we're just catching him in, and I was so fortunate to grab 3 hours of him in a studio, a cable studio, and we just went off. And the staff was great. It was a brand new studio. I'll even give a plug for it. Was the Acton studio, so anybody's got a chance to record there, take it, state-of-the-art stuff. And I think it was a 3-camera shoot, and they just did a phenomenal job, focusing on him, etc. And so I just let him run, and that's the beauty of what we'll hear today, is that this man was always on, always.
Sure.
He didn't know the difference between the stage and
real
straight
life,
out.
right? Yeah.
And so what he had done there is he made reference, I think, right away to a trip that we took that changed my life. I spent about a week, I think week and a half with him in Prague, Czechoslovakia. I don't know, God, it has to be 20 years ago.
Oh, so I thought he was joking. You actually did take a trip with him then.
Oh, yeah, that
Okay.
part is not a joke. Oh, yeah, it was an epic, it was a world life-altering week. And if I had to, I think I'm embarrassed to say this, in that I have beautiful loved ones, my children, my family, relationships. But if I had to pick, if God said, you got 1 week to relive, what would you do? And I'd say, take me back to Prague
That'd be the
with
one,
Bobby
yeah.
Seibel, because every single day was side-splitting, insane. It was the comic movie of all comic movies. It was a road show.
Well, they
with
say,
two
like, the
comedians.
real life stuff is so much more funnier than any routine you could make up and write, So, I mean, he was just real life funny. There was no routine with Bob. It was just who he was.
Oh, well, what will help the audience understand, he was the ultimate character, the ultimate juxtaposition. He was cheap as can be. He pinched every penny till it screamed.
Okay.
And at the same time, a hypochondriac. Okay, so to give you an example, he would call me one day, and excited as can be. He was in his late 50s, and he said, "Tommy, I just scored a big one." He said, "Lynn Medical just gave me a free colonoscopy."
Okay. Wouldn't want to pay for one of those, eh?
At this point, he's not joke writing. He's being Bobby Seibel, and he's laying it out in front who he is. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, But I'm saying, why'd I go with it? And he goes, I said, really, Bobby, you're excited about it? Yeah. He goes, you know what these things cost?
So how long did you know Bobby for? How long were you guys friends?
Oh, we met, when comedy was taking off, in the mid 80s, I guess.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I met him was in a show we did down. It was a bowling alley in Brockton. In those days, you worked every single night. Any night you wanted to work, you could work.
Those were the days.
Because there were so many clubs, yeah. So it was hot. Comedy was at that time the disco that the 70s were. Comedy was the disco of the 80s. So I met him in a bowling alley. There was a bunch of comedians, and
So were you on the show together, or were you just hanging out, or?
Just hang out. I mean, I just showed up, and there were like 3 or 4 comedians on the set.
Okay.
Doing a set.
Yeah.
And I walked in. I had come in from a bad day at divorce court.
I can relate to that.
So you know the deal.
I know the deal. Oh yeah.
So I wasn't in the best of moods, and so I walked in bitching about some decision the judge made or this, and he looks at me. He really didn't know me, and he just looks at me and goes, "You're angry."
You had that look on your face, huh?
Well, the irony was, a couple of years later, he went through a divorce.
Oh, then he could relate to that angry face, huh?
Well, I was able to return the favor. I looked at him and said, "You're angry."
Yeah, you look a little angry too. I wonder why. Well.
So if you have this juxtaposition of being cheap and a hypochondriac, and it ran the whole course of his life.
Right.
He did. He counted it. We were walking down some street in Prague, and he was driving me crazy because he was so cheap. And I said, well, Bobby, we're in Prague. He said to me one day, let's get for lunch. Let's get a Coke. Let's get a Coke and a pizza. A buck and a half. I said, Bobby, we're in Prague. We're in Europe.
Yeah.
We're in the Czech Republic. I think we get a $1.50 pizza anywhere. And
let's eat some cultural meals.
Yeah, I said, come on, we can splurge. I said, I'll buy. And I said, you worry about money. I don't care about money. I said, oh, no. I said, you care about money more than anybody. I says, you don't care about making it. I says, but you damn well watch every dime that leaves your fingertips.
Right.
And which leads me to another one. He held on to his home line phone forever. Refused to get a cell phone. Didn't want the technology. No, more than that. He didn't.
Confuse you at that age, yeah. If you're not ready for something new like that, yeah.
Well, but there was the other factor, the money. He didn't want to spend the extra money.
If he was cheap, you don't want a cell phone, sure.
Yeah. So as a comedian, as a businessman, you're gonna love this story. So finally, he breaks down. I get a phone call. I just got a cell phone. So I said, it's great. And yeah, but I'm getting rid of the house phone. I said, Bobby, do not do that. Why? I said, Bobby, how long have you had the home phone? Oh, about 30 years. I said, right. I said, how did you get all your shows up to date? The house phone. I said, right. Bobby, you don't. It's $25 a month. So I said, Bobby, you do not want. I said, one show, just one phone call to do one show is what, $300-400? And I said, so don't do it.
Losing all your contacts, right?
Yeah. You know what he says? I can't take that chance.
That's great, yeah. Well, the first time I met him was, I was a young comic coming up. I met him, he was on the Steve Katzo show, which was a local television show that did hit nationally, but he was headlining the show. I was the warm-up comic for the show. And I went in, and, you could feel the buzz in the room. Bobby Seibel's coming. I wonder what he's going to do. You could just, I don't know how to explain it. You had to actually be in the room to just see the buzz in everybody's eyes. Bobby's going to be here. What's Bobby going to do? And I did okay. I didn't do great. The audience, they clapped. They were appreciative of me. But Bobby, he just went up there and crushed it. And I could see, just to look in everybody's eyes, but Bobby Seibel's going to be here. And you can't say that about a lot of comics.
Oh, well, again, his genius was there was no separation between the stage and street life.
Right.
So he comes in and he's just being himself. So he doesn't get up and try. No, you and I, a normal comic, that our street personality is different than a stage personality, and some tweaking at least. So you've got to prepare. You got to size up the audience. You got to what are they in the mood for? But not him. He was just himself. So there's this guy. Just as you heard from that clip, he's in Vegas, and it's 5 days before a hooker hits on him. And then he says to her, okay, let's go. He says, just tell me you love me. And then she says, well, I can't, I'm a hooker, not a hypnotist. Or a therapist, whatever she said. And she gave him the money back. That's his mind always working.
Right. You don't hit the stage and say, okay, it's time to turn it on. Well, he was always on,
Always. And, but his life was his comedy with his unconscious life. That juxtaposition of cheap and hypochondriac. He was something out of a Woody Allen movie or out of Seinfeld. he was like the ultimate Kramer, except much more loved. But he said to me, he always was amazed by me, and in that, I lost my leg at the age of 13, and had a prosthesis and limped around, and it
never slowed you down, though.
Jesus, you're my hero. You're my hero. You had cancer and you beat it. He goes, and he says to me again in Prague, Tommy, and he's talking about cancer. I know I got it. I just can't find the freaking thing. and sadly, ironically, he chased it down. He was always in the doctor's office looking for cancer. And unfortunately, at the end, and it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
That's what happened.
Well, I'm a Sam Kinison fan. He did so many jokes about drunk drivers, and ironically, he was killed by a drunk driver. Like, wow,
right.
Kind of like that.
You got to be careful what you put out there. You got to be careful what you say.
No, he was at the top of the Boston comedy game as a local comic, okay? But I mean, have you ever worked with some of these young comics, like right off the bat, they hit the big time, and you're like, I've been doing this forever, and I don't get an opportunity like that. Like, some people hit it off the bat, and some people, they do this forever to grab the big stage. But wasn't he a comic? Don't you think he should have been like bigger on a national stage rather than just a local one?
Well, again, I have the answer.
Okay.
and it was all. I have a sense that a lot of the people who really make it know the secrets of success. For example, let's be honest. Seinfeld, the richest comic around,
right,
worth over $1 billion.
Yep.
The funniest guy, not even close.
Nope.
Not even close.
Play by the rules, though. That'll get you ahead.
Right, but what does he think of himself? Everything that he does exudes success. The way he dresses, the way his appearance, the way he talks, and so he just, even from his earliest days, when he showed up on the Carson show, he was dressed to the nines, beautiful suit, blah blah blah,
yeah,
and again, just observational stuff, nothing genius, and yet he had that it factor, and likable, etc., but was not going to screw up. I mean, we know a lot of other comedians who are way funnier who blow it. They do drugs, they get involved in sex scandals,
the lifestyle.
We know who we're talking about.
Right.
And you're like, you idiot, you're at the top of your game, but they can't accept it. So many people can't. It's one thing achieving success, it's another thing to maintain it.
It's the pit holes. They fall into the pit holes of comedy, yeah. That's,
exactly, and you go down person after person. So that young guy that makes it, well, let's see. I think, there was a guy named, his last name was Cook. Where did he go? You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he paid tribute, yeah. I mean, Dane Cook, sure.
He was the rage. He was the top of, but,
Well, nobody stays on top forever. I mean, the biggest comics in the business.
I mean, when you look back at the original guys, when you look at the Jack Benny's and the George Burns, Bob Hope, those guys went into their hundreds, because they were businessmen as well as.
That was a different time, though, a different era too. I mean, nowadays you always got the next young comic just.
I think if Robin didn't, do what he did, right, Robin Williams would still be.
Sure, there's the exceptions to the rule. George Carlin, Richard Pryor. I mean, sure.
Steve Martin could come back at any time and do. If they're Billy Crystal, these are the guys that don't fade because they have high hopes. They have high.
They had resurgences too. They had their ups and downs in their career. I mean, there's no saying Dane Cook can't make. I mean, it's such a tough grind. I think he's done so much. He wants a break after this point.
Right. Well, but let's go back into the personality. He had one video cassette. It was the days before DVDs. All right.
Yeah.
He had one. He didn't do one and then print off a bunch of them. He had one, and it was filmed on a cruise ship with the worst camera that probably ever existed. Probably one of the tourists had a camera, right?
Old Betamax or something.
The lighting sucked.
Yeah.
The ship is rocking and rolling. Okay. He's staggering around on the stage, trying not to fall off the stage.
Oh boy.
The sound was horrible. But this was his promo.
This was his demo tape. Okay.
And so he would send it out. So if a booker was interested, he would send it out and then demand it back.
Oh jeez, you got to send that back to me.
He would call.
Where's my tape?
Where's my video cassette?
I guess their top priority is mailing that back to Bobby, right?
Well, one day he came to visit me early in the morning, and he had gone to an AA meeting, and and he made no secret about that. He talked about it all. In fact, when we play another bit there, I'm sure he's going to be mentioning the alcohol. And so he came. It was an AA meeting. So at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I said, "Come on in. I'll cook you breakfast." I gotta go. So where the hell are you going at 9 o'clock in the morning? He goes, "I gotta get back to Lynn Union Hospital." He had, again, when he would throw his birthday parties, like every 5 years, he'd throw like a 60th, 65th, 70th. He had 300 guests. 300 people. How many people have 300?
Yeah, who's got 300 friends? I'm lucky I got 5. Wow.
Okay, and he would entertain them. He would buy Chinese food. He would get a 20-piece band, jazz band. He would get the a cappella group from the North Shore. He paid for the hall. It easily cost him $3 or $4 grand for a guy that watched every penny. Yeah. He just blew it. So he says, in his entire life, he was always in the hospital, not him in the hospital. He was visiting people in the hospital who were dying.
Oh,
and it always said, "I go." No,
he had a big heart. He was known for having a big heart. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go visit this guy. I gotta go visit that guy. So I said, "Well, where are you going?" He said, "I gotta get back to Lynn Union." I said, "No, it's not me." He says, "I got a buddy who's dying." He goes, so I gave him my video cassette.
You gotta get it back.
He says to me, I think it's keeping him alive. And so I said, "Well, I don't get it." "Well, last night I went to visit him and he didn't look good." So I said to the nurse, I said, I hate to ask you this, but how long do you think he's got? The nurse said, "I don't think he'll make it through the night." So he was sleeping, so I went back in and I opened up his drawer, the nightstand, and I took the video.
Oh, gee.
I said, "So?" "Well, I just called her. He's still alive."
That did it.
He goes, "I gotta get up there, and I can't let him know that I thought he was gone. I gotta get back there and put the video back."
Oh, before he misses it, right?
He wakes up.
He had it all planned out. All right.
And none of that is made up. That's the real.
You want to play another video here?
Yeah.
Let's play another one. Yeah, let's see what we got here. Bobby at his best here.
From 33 years of screaming through the mic, not into the mic, because I haven't got the capacity. I don't know if you notice, I'm the loud person over there that thinks I can. But I won a few singing contests in the early 60s at the Irish American Club in Everett, Irish American, I think it was that. And I won one night. I was half in the bag, and I went up and sang I used to love Joe Williams when he sang with Basie.
Oh, yeah.
"Well, all right, well, okay, will you win? Well, I'm in love with you," and I got it done, and people were, "Wow, the guy's good." And then about a month later, they sent me a postcard. "You are qualified for the finals." Now, the nerves, because I wasn't prepared to do it. I just went up and go, "Hey, he's got a good voice, put him up." So I'm like, "Oh my God, in the finals, it's coming up pretty soon." So I worked at the General Electric in Lynn, so I took And I left after lunch. I told my supervisor, I got to do this. I'm nervous. I got to go. So I started drinking around 3 in the afternoon. So needless to say, Tom, by the time the contest began, I was kind of rubbery. True story, I'm not putting you on. And they had one act, a little kid singing, then they had, not a little kid, about 20, whatever. And then I was 23 or something. And now, from winning finalist from last month, Bob Seibel. And I staggered on that stage, and there was a 4 or 5 piece band, and the guy on the reed was setting me up. Da-dun, 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 da-dun. People going, what the hell? So they hooked me. I went off stage, but now I'm mad that I didn't get my chance in my mind. I'm singing like Tony Bennett up there. All right, obnoxious, look. And so they threw me, I'm in a chair, and toward the end, and all my friends are like, oh my God, everybody, about 30 people came to see me. And then, at the end of the thing, they brought these 2 little Irish step dancers on, and I said, this is it, I'm making my move. And I went on stage, we're all right, we're okay. I got story. I never went back again for the final. True story. Another one of my successful alcoholic career moves, and I wasn't called back, but that was a true story. Poor Irish step dancers, and I'm pushing my way. All right, I wanted to come on, pick it up, and trying to bring back Daisy. Like they say, the true stuff is.
Well, just what I said. The true stuff's funnier than anything you can make up, right there, right?
Again, just his life. I mean, and I got to know him so well, and he regretted all those years of alcoholism. I think, I forget what he.
Well, funny, I just heard this actually. Eddie Murphy, how he did a bunch of routines about his father being an alcoholic? He said when his father heard those routines, his mother was cracking up in the audience, and that's actually what got him to turn sober. His father never drank again after hearing those routines. His son making fun of him, like that in a comedy routine. So you never know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it took Bobby. Bobby said, I cut out the booze, but it took me a little while with the weed.
Yeah, I had my best friend was an alcoholic. God bless him. He ended up taking his life. He couldn't beat it. That's the downfalls of the disease. But yeah, it was I guess you're looking for something. Everybody's got something in life you look to take the edge off. I mean, I use comedy. I mean, some use alcohol and some use weed. That's everybody needs something. Yeah.
Well, he regretted it so much that nobody lived better or more intensely than Bobby Seibel. He traveled. He used to take steamers, freight steamers, ships to places like South America. He'd go off by himself. Again, they were cheap. He'd get a room on an oil tanker.
Right.
And go off to South America and hike through Patagonia. I mean, he was just a madman. He ingested every single second of his life, and and scuba. He was the ultimate Renaissance man. As you hear in these clips, not only was he funny, he belonged to Harvard's astrophysics club. He loved astrology. He flew. He had a license to fly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he played the piano. He was an artist. Okay. He brilliant reader. A jazz aficionado. Every time there was a huge jazz convention or concert, he was there.
I had that. Outside of comedy, he did what? He ran 17 Boston marathons, I heard.
Yeah.
Climbed mountains. He flew small planes. Like you said, scuba dived. I mean, he was a well-rounded person. I mean, now you said he did some of this stuff by himself, because I always want to take trips and people don't want to go. I mean, it's like I don't want to go by myself, but that's something to get out there and just do it by yourself. Yeah.
Oh God, he went to the Galapagos Islands. He was always, and you wonder especially in these times, I think we had a major shift in how the world revolved in the last year. And
Sure.
in fact, wasn't it yesterday or the day before was the anniversary of the shutdown, the lockdown.
Was it? I didn't know that. Wow.
I remember we were on. Bobby was his own man, and he was going to live life his way, and he wasn't. We were going to a show down the Cape, and it was during rush hour, and we're jammed in traffic on Route 3 with cars all around us, and he goes, I don't get it. I don't know why they live like this. Not for me. and so he
People
ran.
are different, yeah.
He was his own.
Some people love the hustle and bustle of the city, and some people can't wait to get to the country and just leave the quiet lifestyle. Everybody's different. It's what you like in life.
He came from, when these 3 hours of tape, and I don't say it just because I was instrumental in making them, but they should really be in the Library of Congress, not just for his genius, but when we did them, he started right at the beginning.
At least in the Boston Comedy Hall of Fame, right? If there was a Boston Comedy Hall of Fame, you'd have to have this footage in there, wouldn't you?
God, it should be national. He talked about life in the 50s, and he talked about Lynn and growing up in a place like Lynn, an urban setting, and without even prompting him, he was talking about knowing people who were had interracial relationships, and all the different ethnicities, the Greeks, the Italians, the Germans. He was half German, half Russian. He always made jokes about his mother, that she was a Hummel. She shrank to the size of a Hummel.
Those are little statues for the kids who don't know what a Hummel is, or a famous line of statues.
German statues.
Right.
And, I'll do a story that Don Gavin, another genius.
The Godfather, Boston comedy.
Yeah, the story went, Gavin told me one time, he said, I love Bobby. But, we had a little problem, Bobby and I. He goes, I called him one day. He says, I did this on stage when there was a toast to Don Gavin, and there had to be 500 people at Boston's Laugh Boston. And he called me like the day before just to invite me to go, but I reminded him of a story he told me between him and Bobby. And he says, I got to the point. I had to call him. People were saying to me, are you doing Bobby's act or is Bobby doing your act? So I called him out. And I said, Bobby, I got something. What is it? What is it, Tony? I love you. What's up? People are telling me they don't know if it's my act or you're stealing my shit, Bobby.
Really?
No, I'm not. He goes, like what? Well, he says, like that thing I do about Marblehead. My parents taking me through Marblehead and showing me a thing and then saying to me, you're never going to live here. And you do the same bit, Bobby, word for word. My parents used to do that too. Yeah, but Bobby, I was doing the bit before you decided to do the bit. Just because your parents did that doesn't mean that you can do that, especially in Boston when I'm doing the bit.
Right.
Okay, he goes, what else? Well, the part about, getting lit on fire, and he goes, that's not you. He says, what? He goes, yeah, that's Colin. He goes, what? He goes, yeah, I got that from Colin.
I didn't steal it from you. I stole it from somebody else.
So Gavin says to me, and by this time I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, I just got back from L.A. I was doing the bit out in L.A. He goes, and everybody's going to call me a thief. So I said to him, hey, would you check on that for me?
Well, it's like doing a joke about a trip to a donut shop. Everybody goes to the donut shop. Anybody can write a routine about it. I mean.
So he goes, I'll get right back to you. So he says, so I'm waiting around. And about half an hour later, he calls me up and goes, Donnie, you're clean. It wasn't him. Yeah, I stole it about my mother shrinking to the size of a humble? Yeah. He goes, well, you're doing that. Well, yeah, because I'm a little pissed at you for taking my two things. In fact, I'll tell you what, Bobby, I'm going to do that. I'm taking that. That's going to be part of my act, all right? He goes, just because you took my stuff, I really like that bit, and I'm keeping it.
This is like 5th grade right here. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So Bobby says to him,
Welcome to comedy, yeah.
Okay, Bobby goes, okay, I understand, but can I do it too?
Can I have my own act, please? Yeah. But that's Boston comedy. It's 5th grade all the way around. It really is, you know, but...
Oh, God. Well, I did that at the end of the night. I thought they weren't going to put me on. I've been standing there with Stephen right beside me. Gary Dullman was in town. It was a huge, huge tribute. And I felt so honored because when I got up there, the place just
You got to take a chance, though. You took a chance, and I'm sure it went over good, right? Yeah.
Oh, they
loved it, right?
Again, it's Bobby, you know, and it's Bobby, and it's the two brightest minds in Boston comedy, you know, Don Gavin and Bobby Seibel, you know, again, a total juxtaposition. But that's, I mean, everything.
He performed into his 70s, right? I mean, he was well into his 70s, and even when he had health problems, he still wanted to perform. Do you think it was in his blood, or?
Oh,
comedy's in your blood, you know.
Just, you know, we talked about this the first show. I mean, we don't have a choice. You think you have a choice, but, you know, we're born to do this.
I saw Carlin up at Hampton Beach about a month before he passed away, and I thought, he was hunched over, he didn't move, but he still brought it funny as heck, and I thought, you know, this guy made the money, he could quit anytime he wants to, but he don't want to quit. This is what he loves to do, and Bobby was like that. He just loved it.
We all eat, sleep, breathe, you know, and, you know, we're born with that drive, you know.
I guess his signature routine was a bit about elderly drivers. Do you remember that one?
Seibel?
Yeah, that was considered his signature routine. As he did a bit about
elderly. Sit down in the chair and he'd turn his back to the audience and sit down and say, so it looked as though you were in the back seat looking over the driver's thing, and he'd put his arms way up like he was, you know, like a little shrunken guy, holding onto the wheel, and he'd be, you know, giving people the finger, and it was.
He shrunk down so low because the elderly people, they say, they get smaller in their seat. You drive by, you can't see who the hell's driving the car. He says you can't see nobody driving.
He was a character. I mean, talk about his penny pinching, and he used to. He told a story of working down at the casino in Twin Rivers in Rhode Island, and he used to. If there was a free, the best part to him was not just a good show, but a free spread before the show, and he would stock up, and he had a habit of. And I covered it in one of the sessions. I'll have to find it. I hope we do more on him because it's so priceless. He would steal toilet paper.
Steal toilet paper?
Yeah, he would go to hotels and steal the toilet paper.
He's getting his money's worth, right? I'm taking something with me.
He would clean out not only the room, but if he could get to the cleaning lady's cart.
Take some of the soap, some of the shampoos, right? A couple towels if you can get away with it.
And the sweet and lows. He used to take the sweet and lows. I used to not the sweet and lows. Why not? It's there. You know, I said, yeah, but people are watching them. You know, would be at a gig. I said, they're all watching you, Bobby. I said, this is not a good impression. You know, they're paying us nice money, and you're still in the sweet and low. So he tells the story of being down there, and there was some event. They were in the green room or near it, and there was some event in one of the dining halls or the entertainment halls, and the guy was picking up the empties, like the Coke cans and stuff.
Can I have those? They're worth a nickel, right?
Yeah. Well, he talked the guy out of it. So he's walking through. Again, I've got this recorded on the studio, and he's walking through the casino with two big bags, and he's trying to talk Diana, his girlfriend, into grabbing one too, but she wouldn't. And all you hear through the casino, they could hear him coming, clang, clang,
Cling, ching, ching.
But he didn't care.
No shame. Some people got no shame. I know. My buddy was like that.
And Diana told me later that, when we talked after he died, she said he'd store them up in the house.
Yeah.
And then, he lived in Newburyport. And the big trip on the weekend was to load the car with all the empties and drive to Maine so he could redeem them in Maine because they got more money in Maine. And along the way, he would go Route 1 so that he could avoid the tolls.
Oh, boy. He had it all figured out, huh?
Oh, he pitched a penny to the utmost.
Let's play another clip here. You ready?
Sure, let's do another one.
Let's do another one. Here we go. See what genius we got in this clip. Well, now I'm seeing an hourglass. Here it comes, I think. Here we go.
You can create, you can write stuff down, but when you talk from the top of your head and people go like, wow. I'm telling you, here's one, the booze thing. We had an argument over in the Hart. There used to be a place called the Bayside Inn, and the pier ran off from the club, and the pier ran into the ocean. It was January. I'm with about 4 of my buddies, and we're all drinking. I'm a whiskey drinker. Beer, wine, and they used to call coffee sombreros, with the milk. And then I'd go, can you darken it up? It was too late. But I'm drinking one night, and I had a wager with my friends. I said, I bet you that whiskey is like antifreeze in a vehicle. If you drink whiskey, you will not have a problem with cold. And I'll prove it, and I'll drink whiskey and I'll go in and take a dive. It was genuine. It was like right after a blizzard. True story, and the guys are going, yeah. So they walked me down to the pier, and I had enough whiskey in me, I was gone. And I was in my underwear, when I used to wear it, and I was in my underwear. I dove into the ocean, immediate cardiac arrest. I'm exaggerating, but I went into shock. They pulled me out, I was like frozen stiff. I had turned every color of blue or purple. They had the Hart ambulance came down and brought me in the hospital, thawed me out. So it was and I lost the $10 bet. I'm telling you, me and booze.
Those are your friends for you right there. They're gonna let you do something like that when you're drunk, right? Those are your best friends for life, right there.
I mean, have you ever heard anything funnier? I just heard you announce 100 shows, right? You have 100 shows?
Yeah, 102 this episode is, yeah.
Have you ever, in 100 shows, have you ever heard anything funnier than that?
Yeah, no, that's. I can relate to that, though, because your friends think it's a good idea. I'm going to get drunk on Wednesday and drunk on... All right, let's do it, man. All right, let's see it. I'm in. Let's... Don't try to talk no sense into the guy, man. Those are your friends.
You can just picture him in his underwear in the middle of January.
Right.
And Lynn jumping off the pier of the restaurant into the Atlantic.
Well, it reminded me, I heard when the Titanic sank, I heard, like, the kitchen cook, he took, like, the cooking sherry or the vodka, he got drunk, and they said that was how he survived. He thinned out his blood so much that he survived in the icy water because it didn't freeze his blood. So when he was telling the story, I'm thinking it's going to work out for him, maybe, but I guess not.
He was, like I said, and what does he say at the end? And I lost the $10.
Lost the $10 on top of everything else.
The fact that he went to the hospital, the fact that he almost died, that wasn't what really held in his mind.
What really got me was I had to pay him $10. Huh?
The $10. I mean, Jack Benny, made his whole career. He branded himself with being the cheapskate.
Right.
Your money or your life. And then just a big pause, and they're going, well, I'm thinking.
Let me choose. All right. Well, there were other guys who paid tribute to him. Now, I'll read you a quote here, and you tell me what you think of this quote. Lenny Clark, who's, he's the representative of Boston comedy right now, the biggest name in Boston comedy. After Bobby died, he put out a quote, "I'm a better guy for having known Bob Seibel." So what do you think of that quote?
Without a doubt. I mean, like I said, if I can imagine myself going up to the pearly gates and God going, we'll give you a special. If you want to go back, what week of your life would you pick? And I would say, I want to go back to Prague with Bobby for a week.
I thought that because you sound like you consider yourself a better person for having known Bobby, for sure, right?
I mean, yesterday, to prepare those clips, first of all, I wanted to do it right. I mean, no guy deserves a tribute more than he does. So I didn't want it just to be me telling stories about him. I wanted the audience to hear
know
him.
Right, yeah.
And so I sat there. Now, I'm still laughing today over the same bit. I had to trim those and edit those.
Right.
And so I had to get the trimming. I must have listened to each one of those at least 5 times, every single time.
That's when you know a joke's good, when you can hear it a second time and still laugh just as hard as you did the first time. When a joke never gets old, right?
Well, I think we talked the first time we met that the real comedians, the guys who do last, the guys that make it a career, the guys that do movies, the guys that go down in history, are the characters. They don't just deliver a monologue.
Right.
They're characters, and Robin Williams was a million different characters, but Steve Martin was the wild and crazy guy.
Right.
Sam Kinison was the screamer. So it's those guys that stand apart.
Get remembered,
Billy,
right?
And so with Bobby, he was he was walking comedy. Everything about him was this character.
Comedy, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you his own words here. Now, you respond to this. A month before Bobby died, he wrote this. He quote, "Hearing from my peeps, it's already open season on Seibel's bits, which means I must have been a pretty good comic." So he's saying he's about to pass away. He knows that everybody already wants to steal his material. So what's your response to that?
Well, like I said, he really had an amazing heart, but he didn't mind shooting, at people that he didn't like.
Right.
So, yeah, he's, when he called me up to invite me to go to, I was fortunate. I retired early in my life from the corporate world. And one of my dreams was to go on one of these trips that he was taking. So he called me up and said, "Tommy, I got a deal. We can go to Prague, Czech Republic. Now get this, $500. We get airfare, transfers to the hotel, breakfast every day, a half-day tour of the city, but we got to do double occupancy. Otherwise, it's $550. So, like an idiot, he sucked me in. I think, why waste the $50? I'll get the room with him. So, and which turned out to add so much to the whole thing about, doing that. So the hotel that he got was 6 miles out of the city. It looked like a dot in the horizon. It would be like, where would it be? It would be like we were in Braintree.
You spent as much in gas getting to the city as you probably saved on the hotel, right?
And well, that's the best part. I was willing, we started taking the metro. He talked me into the metro, but then he didn't want to pay the 25 cents or whatever the hell it was. I mean, we're talking exchange rate here. I mean, ridiculous. It's an Eastern Bloc country coming out of communism. They didn't have a lot of money,
right.
so it was like 25 cents for the thing. He'd run. That's the other thing. He was a runner, like you said. He'd run the 6 miles.
Oh boy!
So one night I got a cab. And he got out of it. He was mad at me because he said, "What are you spending so much money for?" So he got out and he ran home.
Oh, jeez.
And but it started right away. I got to the airport, and I walk in, and he's already there, and he's at the gate, and he's got bandages all over his face, and he's black and blue.
Oh boy!
So I said, "Jesus Christ, Bobby." I said, "What the hell happened to you?" "I took a flying lesson." I said, "What?"
Did you crash or what?
I chartered a plane. I said, "Well, what did you crash?" No. Before you can take it up, you got to inspect it. I said, "Yeah." "Well, got to check the wing flaps, you got to check the tires, you got to check the gas. Yeah? I walked into the wing.
Oh, brother.
I said,
I can picture that happening in my head. That's the sad part.
He said, so, yeah, Jesus, I whacked it hard because, I mean, I fell right back down on the ground. So now I got blood. Now here, listen to the importance of this. Here we go. I got blood squirting out of my nose. He says, I got a black and blue. And he says, and I'm pissed because I'm wasting time. It's $60 an hour for the plane. And the clock is running.
I was going to ask, did he still take the lesson? I guess he did. That wasn't slowing him down at all, right? Bloody nose, black eye. I'm still going for it.
So I run into the terminal, and everybody saw it, and they're all laughing and clapping for me. I go in and I grab a bunch of toilet paper, and I run back out to the plane with toilet paper wrapped around my head. And I take off.
Oh, jeez. He was a character till the end, I'll tell you.
Oh, my God. I mean, and that was like nothing.
Oh, and, many stories.
So I said to him, one day we were back down in town in Prague itself, and I'm looking at these beautiful mansions that are like, they didn't have Airbnb at the time, but they were B&B, these gorgeous things. And he says to me, we could have stayed in one of these.
Someday, right? Someday.
For $25 more for the week.
Don't want to spend an extra $25.
And I'm like, you bastard! You son of a bitch!
You put us out there for over 25 measly dollars, right?
The thing was like 30 stories high, the hotel was staying in. I mean, everybody there was from a third world country. You know? And we had to stay.
Buy whatever you want for $25. He wants to save it. I don't know. Now, do you know Jay Rodriguez? He's a comedian locally.
Oh, yeah, nice guy.
Well, now, Jay Rodriguez said he came up with Jay Leno. Now, he did a lot of shows with Jay before he hit it big. And he said once Jay Leno got the Tonight Show, he's like, hey, you're going to have me on or what? And Jay said, well, you know, if I have you on, I got to have every other guy I came up with on, so I can't do it, you know? So, I mean, you know, Jay had got too big, you know, where he would have, like, you know, he still loved his friends, but he couldn't have paid tribute to him by having them on. Now, we mentioned earlier, Dane Cook, one of the biggest comedians out of Boston and, you know, probably in comedy at the time, when Bobby passed away, he took time out of his schedule to pay tribute and put a nice post out to, you know, Bobby. I mean, what kind of respect do you think that is, that one of the biggest names in comedy would take time out and pay tribute to a local comic?
And again, I mean, that's just, how could you not love Bobby? I mean, he brought sunshine into everybody's life. Nobody ever forgot him.
Right.
You know,
well, can you imagine Dane Cook's schedule? It's got to be every minute's accounted for. I mean, to take the time out and say, hey, I got to take the time out to pay tribute to a local comedian, you know?
Nice gesture. I mean, and again, Lenny, you know, everybody,
right.
You know, why don't you play another clip? We'll see.
Let's play another clip. All right, here we go. Let's see what we got on this one. More of the genius of Bob Seibel right here. It's coming up, and
sure, I'll go out with it. The next day, maybe a week later, I would do the priming up in the afternoon. So by the time, you know, I didn't have a vehicle, I'd be in the back seat. And by the time we got to the house to go and look in the back door. And I always wondered. And then another night, my buddy Ronnie would pick me up to go pick up my date because I had no car. I'll give you $1 for gas because in those days it was $1 a gallon. $1 a gallon for gas. I'll give you $1 to pick up this girl for me and take me to the club. Now, you ready? Oh God, I laughed at myself. We went to a place called Frank Seibel and Lynn, and in the back was a big lounge called the Leopard Lounge. And at that particular night, the Greek music was playing. And this girl and me and my friend Ronnie, who was a good-looking kid, cool kid, and I'm all buffed, drunk. So I'm going to impress her. I'm actually out of the her by myself to show her what a great Greek, because I grew up in a Greek neighborhood, what a great Greek dancer I was. I got the handkerchief, and as close as I could get to a Greek dancer, it looked like a cha-cha. Meanwhile, she's giving him her phone number and address. So now, the night's over, she wants to go home. I wonder why. And so I said to Ronnie, drop me at my mother's house, pull in the driveway. So I want to go in and steal some money off my mother's pocketbook, and I had more money. So I would come in the house, I do this. I learned it in the army. It's called low crawl. I did low crawl up to the bed, and the pocketbook, I went up, and the nightlight went on, and her cane came down on my head. I had like severe concussion, but I got the $10. I came crawling out with the blood on my head. And this girl is like, please get me home. So, when I get out, he's kissing her. They're smooching in the front seat. I went, my best friend, you betrayed me. He's going, you're a drunk. So we dropped her off. And she said, I'll see myself to the door. True story now, we're coming home and I'm giving them this drunken, how could you betray me? Shut up, you're obnoxious, you're drunk. We got to a place in Lynn where there was a bridge and a red light. I got out of the car and I laid in front of the car. Kill me! Kill me! He backed up and took off. It was raining. 2.5 miles to get to my house. I was like a water rat, a wasp rat.
Well, you can hear how much he cracks you up. All you hear is you laughing in the background the whole time, you know?
I mean, that scene in any movie would be better than any big movie being made today in terms of comedy, except for, you know, something like John Hughes would do. But here he is. He said, he used to get so drunk. He says, I think he said, I used to get prime up early in the afternoon for these dates at night. And he says, and the first thing he said was he was in the back seat and they'd drive up to pick up the girl. And the girl would come out and there's Bobby half gone in the back seat. She'd go, no, that's all right. I'll stay home. And so he goes to this club thinking that the girl, that's right, he had the date with the girl, and Ronnie was driving, so he wanted to impress the girl, so when the Greek dance came up, he spawned. He jumped up on this floor by himself with a handkerchief, the way they do the Greek dances, right? And thought he was doing great, and he comes back, Ronnie's making out with the stage.
Oh, jeez. I can hear her. He's like, the girl's just sitting there like, just get me home. It's like, I've been in situations just like, get me the hell out of this situation. I can picture it, you know.
And then he gets out of the car and lays in the front and tells the guy to run him over.
Yeah, right. Kill me now. Kill me now. I ain't dealing with you drunk ass. Puts it in reverse and goes home. You walk home, you drunk bastard.
I mean, the best screenwriters in the world can't write this stuff.
That's a movie in itself. Jeez, they could have made a movie about this guy. But
well, you know, that's what I'm hoping someday. I mean, I would love to do, you know, a one-man show about him. I mean, I could just take off extemporaneously.
I can see what you said, though. He openly talks about being an alcoholic, which a lot of people, you know, they don't like to talk about it, but he was pretty open about it. I'm seeing from these clips. But
God, he just, you know, we were in, you know, and I just don't have a problem with alcohol. I can drink it, take it or leave it, but I love to have a drink. And so in Prague, they had amazing beer. And he'd just look at me and goes, can I just sniff that?
I don't want any. I just want to remember what it's like, right?
And I said something to him like, well, take a sip. I go, oh, no, you don't want me to do that.
Oh, no, yeah.
No, you don't want me to do that.
Yeah, once you get going, there's no stopping. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm like that with food. I'm addicted to food, and I've been on a diet lately. Then I work with a guy, he eats 4 candy bars for lunch and don't gain a pound, and it's like, you son of a bitch. So I can relate with the booze, yeah.
Exactly. Like you said, now I watched, like again, yesterday, I laughed to tears all day yesterday watching those, and I just laughed again.
Yeah.
I mean, that scene, he paints such a picture when he tells a story about him being in the back seat dancing on the floor
He was
by
a good
himself.
storyteller. He makes you feel like you're actually there, right? Yeah.
Oh, and then getting out of the car and lying down on the bridge.
Well, I had him on my old TV show at LTV that I did, and we were roasting Jerry Caruso, a mutual friend of ours, and he was closing out the show for us, and we were each paying tribute to Jerry, and I said, Jerry gave me my break in comedy, and he taught me, I was going through a tough divorce. It was tearing me apart, but Jerry taught me to comedy, how to laugh at the painful situation in my life. And Bobby just chimed in, sure. Like, now I'm seeing why he can relate to that. I think he used comedy to battle his demons from alcohol, I think, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He just had that ability to
laugh about
look
it.
At himself. Yeah, he could separate himself to look at it. Like, during those 3 hours, and it was so easy to do. All I had to do was introduce him.
Right.
And shut up. That's all I had to do. And he would go from one to the other, always laughing at himself. And, I mean, take contrast to today, where nobody can laugh at themselves because they get
offended by everything. We talked about that. I know. It's a crazy...
Yeah, exactly.
It's hurting comedy, too. It really is hurting comedy. You can't even... When you can't go up there and be yourself, you got to think about every word's coming out of your mouth. It takes away. You shouldn't have to think. You just go up there and make people laugh. But
just look at the life he lived, because he was able to do that. He made himself the ultimate character, laughed at himself, not doing it to he would have loved. He always told me he would have loved to have made it big, but. Would he do anything to do that? Would he pay a couple of bucks for it?
Well, you hear from these big guys, and they tell you, making it big ain't the funnest thing. It's the journey getting there, and it's like he enjoyed every part of the journey. You can tell whether he made it big or not.
I think the people who, myself included, that I had opportunities to maybe go national, and I realized what was more important. My family, my kids. Right. I didn't want to be on the road every night and have two daughters growing up. And
I had Bill Campbell on the post, and he said on the podcast, he said the exact same thing. I'm like, all these guys from the Ding Ho, when you were there, they went on to be big. Did you ever regret it? And he said, no, I put my family first, and I'll never regret it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so Bobby had his relationship. He had horrible times with women, horrible. I was so glad that he and Diana did so well at the end, and she just loved his insanity. She embraced it all. A lot of them just couldn't take it.
I finally found a girl like that myself who understood me. When you can find someone who understands you, that's half the goal in life, So.
Oh my God, yeah. So have we got another one? I think.
Yeah, let's play it out. I was just thinking that same thing. Let's play it. We got two left. Let's play one more here and then see what this goes.
I got my pilot's license to fly Cessna 172s. I called my friend Ronnie, who used to drink with me. I said, he knows I'm sober. I said, Ronnie, I got my pilot's license. You want to go flying? He goes, I wouldn't get in a simulator with you. You find a way to get that. It's insane. It's totally insane. I'm telling you. And you know what's funny? When you're in that, you hang with nuts. Because all of my friends are legally should be in restraint. Most of my friends are all nutcases. They're all nuts. When I think of the crazy lunatics that I hung with all my life, and I say to myself, my God, that a lot of us are still around, a lot of us aren't still around, but some of the things that have, like my friend Peter, who lives in Florida, got the greatest sense of humor. I would call him and go, Peter, you're my best friend. You know what he did? Assumptions. And then once when I flew to Orlando, they picked me up because I lived in Melbourne. And they picked me up in Melbourne, and Peter was sitting shotgun, and Mary Lou was wife was driving. I hadn't seen him in a few years. And I reached over and hugged him by the back, and I goes, Peter, I've been counting the hours. He goes, I am now. How can you top that? It's just incredible humor. And the funny thing, as a stand-up, a lot of the stuff we talk about, death, divorce, disease, is trapped. Yet you spin it, and people pay to see it and laugh and go, what am I laughing at? You lost a body part? That's funny, right? I mean, he got divorced, he lost money, that's funny, right? The guy loses his leg, that's funny. I mean, the human brain is so weird that you can, that fine line between tragedy and comedy. It's incredible, isn't it? That you can tell people stuff, like when you're on stage, I listen to you and I know that's all true, and I go, they're all laughing. And I talk about the alcohol problem and the other stupid stuff that I did. And I go like, they're all laughing. Hey guys, I died! Thank God, huh? Thank God that whatever that mechanism is in the brain that makes it humorous, it's so funny. Well, look at, like tragedies, like Lincoln's assassination. There were jokes about that a few years later.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that joke? Taking a play. Remember that one, Abe? And there was some, in my period of history, and there were some things that I wasn't comfortable with, but people got assassinated and stuff. But as history goes on, it seems to be a buffer.
Of course.
Hundreds of years go by.
I think Chaplin said in life that ultimately becomes comedy because in the long shot, it's all comedy. In the close-up, it's tragedy, but in the long shot, it's always comedy.
Amazing. Funny you bring up Charlie Chaplin. If anybody out in that audience ever heard of a song called Smile, smile though your heart is breaking, smile even though it's aching. Lyrics, Charlie Chaplin says. Charlie Chaplin.
He wrote the score. Like, what a genius. He wrote the score to his movies. Nobody could do that.
Brilliant man. Brilliant man. Again, had some tragedy in his life too, but like you say, from your looking and the overview, it's amazing how things can just make you. Yesterday.
Laugh at my pain. I guess that's what comedy is, right? Laugh at my pain.
I mean, we touched on that, but I mean, again, I must have seen that 8 times yesterday, and he's such a genius. His cadence. His timing, his emphasis,
the delivery. Yeah.
Well, like he's saying, I'm talking about this and that, and he says, and then I'm watching you, Tommy, and you're on stage, and he says, I'm trying to figure it out. You're talking about a divorce, and they're laughing at you.
Laugh with me, laugh at me, whatever gets the laugh, right?
And he's saying. It's not funny, but they're laughing.
It's painful to him, but hearing the story, it's funny, right?
Yeah, and he says, you're telling them about you lost a leg, and they're laughing. He goes, that's not funny.
If you can laugh about it, the people think it's okay to laugh about it, right? Yeah.
Exactly, and he's absolutely right that the sicker it is, the more tragic it is. The more we laughed, it's especially at somebody else's pain.
Sure,
But I mean, it just even brought tears to my eyes listening to sing. He had a beautiful voice, and how he broke into, Smile.
Right.
He not only mentioned the song, but he was so musical, and he used to end his shows with "Let the Good Times Roll," and he would do it a cappella, and he would just get everybody out of their minds and saying, come on, everybody, clap his hands, let's go. We're going to make the good times roll, good times roll.
I remember I was at a convenience store one time, and I opened the door, and somebody talked to me. I turned around to talk, turned back around to go out, and the door hit me right in the forehead, and it hurt. And I saw a lady in a car was cracking up, and I'm like, this bitch, I just hurt myself. Don't find out if I'm okay or not. Instead, she's laughing. Then later I thought about it. I'm like, well, if I was sitting in the car, I'd have been laughing too. Okay, now I get it. So I can understand. Right.
What were the first silent movies with Charlie Chaplin? It was all about people getting hit and hurt. And,
the Three Stooges, yeah. I mean, slapstick comedy, sure.
Gavin used to do a thing. It's really funny to see somebody, fall. Especially if they get up and there's a bone sticking out of their ass.
Something different cells, right?
I'd love to see spontaneous combustion. See just somebody burst in the fucking flame.
It's an art form, it is. Let me read this for you. This is from Paul D'Angelo, another big name in Boston comedy. He wrote this about Bobby. Bob does more than anyone for people. He has a big heart. He's genuine, amazing, one of the first people to be nice to me in the business. He's one of the most wonderful guys in the world. He's out of his mind. Well, what's your opinion of that statement?
Well, he and Paul Wirth. Well, that's where I first found out. They tried to get me to go on a fishing trip with them. Paul had a boat, and I guess it was a good-sized boat, and they, a bunch of comics went out. Bobby was one of them.
Okay.
Paul goes, yeah, but when he came back in the shore, he says, oh, Bobby collected all of the beer cans and put them in a green bag. And he drove, in the summertime, he never drove a car, he drove his motorcycle. And and there's Bobby going down the road. You couldn't even see him. He had so many garbage bags on the thing full of...
On his way to Maine.
Here's a classic. I mean, think of this. I mean, who can write a character like that to begin with, and then to animate him with the crazy situations that he would between. The voice was funny. His mannerisms. He had a, he was very lanky. He was very athletic.
Had the whole package, right? Yeah.
Oh God, like I said, I think the first one that when he said that I'm a better man.
I haven't known him, right?
Certainly, when I think of the laughter, and we haven't even touched on the rest of the stories I have about him. Do you want to play the last one?
Yeah, let's play the last one here, and we're getting over an hour here, so let's play this one and we'll wrap it up. How's that sound? Let's see. We could go on all day, but I think they're getting the gist of it.
Some of the stuff, like with the amputation, I don't know if that can go, but alcohol. Again, I walked through a glass door, and the finger was there, and I went through the glass door. And my dear wife, Tammy, called the police. Ambulance came, they brought the finger in a napkin, and me laying on the slab there in the ambulance, or the gurney, whatever they call it. And then we're going across from the hospital, and I'm laying there, no idea that this happened. And I'm singing Sinatra. I've got you, and I'm drunk out of my mind. The party's still going on. I have no clue that I gave up a body part there, but you ready? Pam is in the ambulance with my finger in a napkin going like this. You ready? I'm right. And the cop said, he ain't died, he's drunk. I'm telling you, Tom, you look back at your crazy. You say to yourself, how did I live this long?
He was able to laugh at himself, that's for sure. Nothing else.
My God, imagine. He says, and again, the phrasing. He walks through, he's drunk. He walks through a glass door, loses his finger, cuts the tip of his fingers off. and he doesn't even know it.
He's so drunk, right?
And then he says, I just lost a body part. And I'm still laughing, and I'm singing. And he says, they put my finger in a napkin.
Singing Sinatra songs.
And his wife is crying. I mean, can you imagine filming this stuff? His wife is crying.
It's a movie in the writing.
He just loves life, and the EMT's going, he's crazy. He just walked through the glass door.
He's just drunk.
Oh God. Well, I hope I felt not only today, but the full day that I spent with him yesterday, and it was so sentimental, and so he was alive again. He was by watching these videos, he came alive. When Diana thanked me so much for making those, because after he passed,
they mean so much, sure.
She watched them all day long.
Guys our age, we get it. We need to know the history of comedy. That's what makes you a better person, makes you a better comic. But these kids these age, I hope they listen to this podcast and they realize the genius of this guy. That you're not only a better person, you're a better comic for knowing what came before you, and certainly. This guy struck so many lives in the Boston community. He's worth learning about. He's worth spending the time to study his life.
And let me give a plug for those. There's 6 half-hour YouTube videos, and all you got to do is either my name, Tom Hayes, Bobby Seibel, whatever Bobby Seibel, and they'll come up. And if you don't, as a comedian, sit and ingest those things, you're missing out.
Now, what was the name of the show you had him on? What was the name of that show?
Upbeat with Tom Hayes.
Okay, so that's the same as your podcast. So you had the TV show was the same name?
You know, in fact, it was funny. I took a video course in a Boston neighborhood, and one of the I took in the video course. The guy teaching said, "Howdy, man." He goes, "How'd you ever get that name?" He says, "That's a corker," and it is, because that's what I try to live every day, is trying to keep things upbeat. And Bobby, nobody did it better.
Best way to live your life, sure. All right, so sadly, I mean, he was in his 70s. It's a natural part of life, passing away. Something's going to get you. I know heart trouble runs in my family. Eventually, my heart's going to get me, but he contracted brain cancer, as we talked about.
Well, he was so good about it at the end. I said, he really did. I mean, talk about manifesting. You mentioned Kennison talking about drunk guys and he gets killed that way. Yeah, Bobby was serious. He was petrified of cancer. Yeah. And he would just talk about it all the time. And like he said, when he said to me, "I know I got it, I just can't find the freaking thing." And he really did. And then when he got, the irony was, and I said it to him, I said, "Bobby," I says, "you spent 20 years looking for it in your colon.
Eventually you're going to find it, right?"
And I said, the irony was, it was in your head. I mean, figuratively and realistically. I says, it was in your head the whole time. And you're right, he said,
Well, Boston lost a great comic, but I think more than that, we lost a great person, overall.
He's immortal. His spirit, when he died, for weeks, when I would wake up, there was just, when he vacated the planet, there was a void, and I could feel it. The world had lost an amazing energy source.
You lost a Picasso. You lost a Mona.
Without the spirit that man gave to the world, and I hope we do this again, because first of all, he deserves it. Second of all, it's if those who are listening, if they get it, they'll understand the genius of this guy and what it takes to be not only a genius in comedy, but to be a genius in being human, and to come to the planet and give way more than you took. So let's please do it again. I've got.
Well, I'll leave you with this quote. I think Mike McDonald gave this quote, and I think he said it best after his passing. The Boston community has lost our great friend Bob Seibel. Smile for him, because that's what he'd want. So, he wouldn't want you to be down. He'd want you to laugh and smile. And,
absolutely.
That's what he'd want. So.
Absolutely.
He's your friend, a close friend. I'll give you the final word here. If you want the listeners to know something about Bobby, what would you want them to know about him?
I don't know. We've really covered it all.
Covered it all.
We'll tell a whole story about he had a terrible situation happen up at the Balsams that he thought ruined his career, and his joke. I'll just give his joke. The thing that got him fired there. He used to do a joke about. And this is Bobby. This is the hypochondriac Bobby. One of those lines, he says, "I have an annual physical every 2 weeks."
Annual every 2 weeks.
I get an annual every 2 weeks. And he did. He was always getting checked out.
Sure.
And so he said, in the exam, the doctor put on the glove and did that thing, and he said, "I had polyps." I said, "I want a second opinion." So we used 2 fingers.
Nothing strange going on there.
And that joke got him fired at the Balsams.
Oh, gee,
And so we'll tell that story hopefully the next time, because it was a 10-year, what can I say, pilgrimage.
It was a love fest. It was a love fest between you guys.
He agonized for 10 years over that fact, and then finally got back there. And it's a hysterical story. that we'll tell the next time. So,
Well, I'll say this. If you ever work the show, you get some comics who, like, if you're opening for them, they'll give you restrictions. You got to work clean, or you can't say this. I'll say this about Bobby. He never gave me any restrictions. He didn't care what you did. He knew he was going to nail it no matter what you did. So,
well,
there it is.
Dave Russo and I had this conversation one time when Dave was first coming on, and Dave was, just as hysterical as he is now. And he says, he said the same thing to me. He says, "How come you're not telling me I can't do this, this?" I said, if I can't follow you, I shouldn't be the headline.
There you go.
And I said, I just think evidently, those headliners that need to tell the acts before them that they can't do, they're obviously afraid.
Yeah, don't be funny so I can be. What is that?
Yeah, so, I have no respect for any of that.
Right.
I mean, there's a point. You don't want a guy dropping the F-bomb every, or dropping his trowel or anything, but you come on. If you can't follow the guy, you don't belong there.
Right. He belonged, because he never said any of it, so he knew he belonged, so.
Oh, God. When he took that stage,
It was magic,
changed.
right?
Yeah.
Well, Tom, it sounded like you two had a great friendship. I want to thank you for sharing
you're the
that
best.
with me. I really do appreciate it. You shared it with me and you shared it with the listeners. And long live the name Bobby Seibel. Thanks for being on Funny Like Clown Podcast.
And really, I hope we do another one, because we can do countless on this.
We
this
could go
man.
on and on forever. He was that legendary. All right, thanks for calling in. Stay safe.
Thanks, Dennis.
We'll talk
Appreciate
soon.
it. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Thomas Hayes on comedian Bobby Seibel, and we said it throughout the podcast that there was not a more loved man in Boston comedy than Bob Seibel, and that if you're not in the comedy world, you don't realize how hard of a thing that is to do, because when you're in comedy, you have your circles, and you have to be in that circle, and some people love you, some people hate you. To get everybody to love you, it's a very challenging thing to do, and he had that spirit, he has that charisma about him, and what a great guy. No comedy's past, and he's a big part of Boston comedy past. This is Funny Like Clown Podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully we'll keep Boston comedy going with this podcast, because a lot of great stuff to learn, and I'm having fun doing the podcast, learning it, and I hope you're having fun learning it with me. Long live laughter. Good night.